Episode 9.
President Muhammadu Buhari. The Spread of Terrorism and Consequences for Islamism. President Muhammadu Buhari, as a retired army general and presidential candidate, did not leave anyone in doubt of his position on the total implementation of Sharia in the country. He spoke in a very direct and honest way about his commitment to the practice of Sharia wholeheartedly. His religious worldview determines how he sees, understands, and evaluates everything: life, purpose, human relationships, political persuasion, and politics. Hence, he is out to define the country as an Islamic nation, in continuation of the Fulani Jihad of 1804 that was stopped by British colonialists in the context of the present political reality. In sincere and intense conviction, Buhari was seen addressing a crowd in Hausa language during his presidential campaign ahead of the 2011 election on the platform of the Congress for Progressive Change, CPC, which is now a part of APC, saying, "Register, go out and vote, guard, protect, make your vote count. Anyone who stops you, kill them." As a result of his voters' education campaign, there were post-election violent riots and sectarian killings in the northern states of Adamawa, Bauchi, Borno, Gombe, Jigawa, Kaduna, Niger, Sokoto, Yobe, and Zamfara, which left more than 800 people dead and thousands displaced. APC imports terror. Furthermore, in the run-up to the 2015 presidential election, while addressing in Hausa language some members of CPC from Niger State, who paid him a courtesy visit in Kaduna, he once again threatened the elections would be bloody if they were not transparent. Quote, "The dog and the baboon will be soaked in blood." End quote. Apparently, APC clandestinely brought in Fulanis from neighbouring countries in the period before the 2015 presidential elections, primed to soak dogs and baboons in blood in the event that Buhari did not win that election. A former chieftain of the ruling APC, Abubakar Kawu Baraje, as part of his 70th birthday anniversary, traced the origin of the current insecurity in the country to the influx of Fulani from neighbouring countries. He said, quote, "We brought in Fulani from Sierra Leone, Mali, Senegal, Niger, Chad, and others for election purposes in the 2015 election, and after the election, they refused to leave." End quote. His statement was corroborated by the revelation of a repentant bandit who alleged in a videoed interview that went viral that he and other bandits were given AK-47s by the present administration, and the same was confirmed by one of the freed women interviewed on television at the Niger State Government House. She said the leader of the bandits who seized them, one Kachala Ali, said they took to banditry because the promise made to them by the government had not been fulfilled. The same Buhari government complicity was alleged by the terrorists who attacked the Abuja-Kaduna train. They threatened to kill those in their captivity unless the government meets them, that the government knows their demand. An intimate view of Buhari. Dr. Dele Sobowale, an economist who was engaged by the General's political party, Congress for Progressive Change, CPC, made the following observation. Quote, "4 pillars of the candidate's character gave me serious concern. First, he is a Fulani feudalist. Second, he is a Muslim fundamentalist who might, under the right set of circumstances, join or lead a jihad. Third, his only known career was in the military. Fourth, by today's standards among world leaders, he was badly educated and had very little experience in democratic governance." End quote. President Buhari's feudalistic disposition amply rubbed off on the newly founded tethering APC party and its government, and by extension incapacitated the democratic experiment his government superintends. Before the end of his first term in office, the ruling party, All Progressives Congress, has become a one-man party, and so it is to date. Its constitution held in abeyance, and all decisions and party schedules were at the whim and caprice of the insular party standard-bearer. His government protection and patronage are doled out to fawning loyalists, even opposition leaders, who try to outdo themselves in obsequious servility. William Stubbs, 1878. The Nigeria oil economy brought to its knees. Oil was almost the synonym of Nigeria since the petrodollar's hegemony of the early 1970s, shortly after the end of the Civil War. The promising young African dream of the black race who did not know what to do with oil money then could not pay its way home today. The Nigerian annual revenue from oil and other resources cannot service its debts. Though it is a result of poor choices of preceding governments that undermined its economic prosperity, the APC government of Buhari brought in the harvest of woes that is unprecedented in the country's history. Essentially, his government is feudal, controls Nigeria as an estate, and allocates rewards to loyalists. In pursuit of his perceived ethno-religious calling, he advances deliberately the consolidation of the Nigerian political economy northwards, and the consequent opportunities for corrupt enrichment, patronage, and rent-seeking southwards, nestling loyal, undesirable political elites whose only interest is power capture that has left Nigerians nightmarish. Professor Bola A. Akintarinwa, former DG of Nigeria Institute of International Affairs, like many other observers, in his column in This Day newspaper, quoted, "Northernization as a major dynamic of Nigeria's deepening insecurity, the independence and parliamentary foundations," end quote, summarized Buhari administration in three ways: institutionalization, abuse of politico-constitutional powers to a point, and reckless disregard for rule of law and public opinion. First, institutionalization of northernization. That he approved the establishment of an Air Force University in Bauchi State after that of Police College in Kano, Defense Academy in Kaduna, Defense College in Abuja, Nigerian Navy School of Armament Technology, Kachia, Kaduna, newly created Nigerian Navy Logistics College, Kanu, and Army University in Biu, Borno. Some saw the siting of the Army University in Biu as a reward to Lieutenant General Tokyo Burate, who was his chief of army staff for 6 years, after which he made him an ambassador. All the defense institutions are concentrated in the same northern region. Second, is his abuse of politico-constitutional powers. He appoints preponderantly northerners to the top of strategic institutions in the country. One good illustration is the NNPC, where the first 20 topmost positions in March 2022 exercise of disengagement and new appointments are all occupied by northerners. Strictly speaking, northernization is nothing short of Islamization, as northern Christians or persons of other persuasions are not in the reckoning. According to the Pan-Niger Delta Leaders, Chapter 2, Section 14, Bracket 3, of the nation's Constitution, which Mr. President swore on oath to uphold and defend, provides that the composition of the government of the Federation or any of its agencies and the conduct of its affairs shall be carried out in such a manner as to reflect the federal character of Nigeria and the need to promote national unity and also to command national loyalty, thereby ensuring that there shall be no predominance of persons from a few states or from a few ethnic or other sectional groups in that government or in any of its agencies. The group maintained that the NNPC management configuration could neither promote national unity nor national loyalty, saying it goes against the spirit and letter of the Constitution. But NNPC insisted the top management appointment was informed by professional competence and adherence to the principle of transparency and accountability. In short, that it was based on merit, that the principle of federal character was also a factor. The PDP 2023 presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, tried to make a political capital out of it. At Nigerian Guild of Editors' interactive session, he said, "We have 17 heads of various security agencies. All of them come from the north." He said he would give every part of the country a sense of belonging. Daily Trust newspaper. Third, there are an excessive number of instances of reckless disregard for rule of law and public opinion. Since the inception of the Buhari administration in May 2015, the president's position on any matter has been the law. APC loyalists and Buharists, as they like to be called across the country, keep explaining why it has to be so. Akin Osuntokun, in his This Day column, Northernization of 2023 declared, "Conscious of this, northern, hegemony and the fact that it does not have to be incompatible with the progress of Nigeria, I have always argued that northern hegemony per se is not the problem of Nigeria. It is the double jeopardy indicated in its abuse and wanton mismanagement that is the problem." He went further to say, "Whenever I write on the subject of northern hegemony in Nigerian politics, I have always found the need to enter this rider to guarantee a fulsome understanding of my premises on the subject matter. Notwithstanding the northern control of NNPC with its subsidiaries and the lopsided appointment of heads of security agencies, Nigeria dropped as Africa's biggest oil producer to 4th place on the continent, behind Angola, Algeria, and Libya under President Buhari's watch as Minister of Petroleum Resources and Commander-in-Chief. It was blamed on oil theft. The crude oil theft became the biggest organized crime in Nigeria's history, leading to a colossal loss of revenue to the government, fiscal crisis, environmental pollution, and a near crippling of the economy. When answering questions on Bloomberg News, a US-based publication in June 2022, Buhari stated emphatically the vandalism and oil theft carried out by the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, are responsible for the shortfall in daily production quota. He urged Western countries to designate IPOB as a terrorist organization. In fact, he accused the international communities of funding the separatist group through international financial networks. But investigations carried out by reputable organizations, including the past Report of Justice Ayo Irikefe Tribunal of Inquiry of 1980 on the loss of billions of oil revenues, revealed that the opaqueness that dominates the entire oil and gas industry in Nigeria accounts for oil theft and loss of revenue. Richard Kennedy, Managing Director of Chevron Nigeria, Mid-Africa Business Unit, while commenting at Nigeria Oil and Gas NOG Exhibition 2022 on Petroleum Industry Act, remarked, "From my experience, the issue with oil theft should not be confused with host community issues. It is much, much, much bigger than that. It is completely different from host community issues. Quite frankly, it is organized crime." Mutayu Sonmonu, the then MD of Shell Petroleum Development Company, SPDC, said the same thing at NOG 2013. He counseled President Goodluck Jonathan that instead of gallivanting to European and foreign countries to seek help on tackling crude oil theft, his administration should move against principalities and powers in high places, who are the sponsors of crude oil theft. It is a network of powerful stakeholders, including politicians in the government, top government officials, security agents, military generals, and their foreign and local business agents. The Army, Navy, Air Force, and other security agencies whom we heard and read wanted to stop oil theft were really not interested in stopping anything, so it seems. The absence of political will to tackle the problem of oil theft makes it worse. Shell, ExxonMobil, Chevron, and Total divested from Nigeria in part because of oil theft. In one of the findings of the Senate Ad Hoc Committee on Oil Lifting, Theft and the Impact on Petroleum Production and Oil Revenues, it was found that Nigeria lost over $2 billion to oil theft between January and August 2022. It got so bad that the government could not fund its budget nor service its debts. The Nigerian government has to resort to contracting private security companies. One of the owners of the companies said what everyone has always known on a live television interview, that many of the security people are involved because there is no way you can load a vessel without settling, or bribing, the security people in that region. He also said that much of the oil was stolen from precisely those areas where there were Army and Navy checkpoints. The military did not respond to the allegations, but it is unlikely they will openly contradict him. The PDP 2023 presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, tried to make a political capital out of it at Nigerian Guild of Editors interactive session. He said, "We have 17 heads of various security agencies. All of them come from the north." He said he would do differently. However, the Daily Trust checks confirm that, strictly speaking, the major security agencies in Nigeria are 10, and 2 are headed by Southerners from Ekiti and Osun states. There was the shocking instance of appointing Yusuf Magaji Bichi from Kano State, who had retired 2 years earlier to replace Matthew Seifa from Bayelsa State, who was the most senior and acting Director General of State Security Service following the sacking of Lawal Musa Daura. As DG, Lawal Daura ordered the block of the National Assembly, preventing entry to lawmakers and civil servants for the business of the day. He too was recalled from retirement by President Buhari in 2015. President Buhari disregarded public opinion on the lopsided northern control of security agencies for over 7 years. The nexus between international organized crime, crude oil theft, and terrorism. Quote, "It is sad that despite your lofty promises, you are leaving us far more vulnerable than when you came, that the corruption we thought would be fought has become a leviathan and sadly a consequence of a government marked by nepotism." End quote. Bishop Matthew Kuka. The United Nations Interregional Crime and Justice Research Institute, UNICRI, studies established the nexus between transnational organized crime and terrorism is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon, posing a concrete threat to international peace, security, and the development of states. Many regions, like ECOWAS, see close linkages between terrorist and criminal enterprises, exploiting porous borders and weak governance. In Nigeria, there are increasing concerns about terrorists benefiting from organized crime as a source of financing or logistical support through the illicit trafficking of goods and many other criminal activities. Still, peculiar in Nigerian organized crime is the Buhari presidency giving cover, and each state government and federal government department and agency operate like a unit of the organization. In effect, controlling or checkmating organized crime in Nigeria becomes a wild goose chase. Its operations are more in the area of natural resources and government appropriation of the national cake. Gold mining in Zamfara is a typical example of international organized crime that has government cover which ultimately festered into banditry, kidnapping for ransom, and terrorism. Oil bunkering in Niger Delta is different. Oil theft is an intentional political economy that is at another level of organized crime. Talking of government cover, Commodore Kunle Olawunmi, retired, a member of the intelligence brief at Defense Headquarters during the leadership of Chief of Defense Staff, General Abayomi Olonisakin, disclosed on live television that Boko Haram terrorists mentioned names of current governors, senators, and officials in the presidency as sponsors during interrogation by the military authorities. He, however, said President Muhammadu Buhari's government failed to demonstrate the necessary political will to go after the high-profile politicians for reasons best known to it. The military intelligence officer for 35 years described as an aberration the attack on Nigerian Defense Academy, NDA, by terrorists, in which 2 military officers were killed and another kidnapped. He lamented that NDA, like other military environments in the country, carelessly opens its doors to everyone on Friday for Jumat prayer. That is the time the terrorists have to profile our security environment. It has always been the case. I have served the military intelligence for the past 35 years. Our problem is religious and socio-cultural. The intelligence expert said the center of gravity of the Boko Haram insurgency ravaging the northeast and spreading to other parts of Nigeria were the sponsors. But the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, kept gaslighting the nation as to the federal government's handling of Boko Haram financiers and sponsors. In fact, he said that Nigerians would be shocked if the names were released. Yet no names were ever made open. It is usually followed by the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed, Department of State Security, or Nigeria Civil Defense, on different occasions issuing threats about exposing the sponsors. In like manner, the presidency appears to be playing hide-and-seek by telling bewildered Nigerians that it would soon expose those behind the heinous crime of crude oil thievery. But if the government knows the perpetrators of this massive economic sabotage, why wait for the ceremony of exposing them soon? Finally, the man who should know, Mr. Mele Kyari, Group CEO of NNPCL, explained that what is stolen is not the difference between the OPEC quota and the production figure, that it is an opportunity lost, not stolen. At another occasion, the Group Chief Executive Officer, Mele Kyari, said the country suffered a monthly loss of 1.9 billion naira to crude oil theft. President Muhammadu Buhari's legacy. The legacy of every administration in Nigeria has always been measured in things which are physical to touch or see, and are not valuable for building a nation. Hence, what Nigerians look for as dividends of good governance or democracy are not necessarily ingredients of nation building. The peculiarity of countries in Africa that require nation building as well as development makes the legacies of their leaders not given appropriate assessment due. For this reason, what most people expect of the legacy of Buhari's administration is economic and maybe developmental. Very few people understand the exigent need for the intangible dividend of democracy and good governance essential to Nigeria's corporate existence. Yet it is intangible assets that a leader grows during his tenure that are valuable to building a nation. Unfortunately, the vision and mission of General Muhammadu Buhari in seeking to be President of Nigeria were divergent from the required change Nigerians sought in 2015. As a fundamentalist follower of Islam, his priority is to advance the ultimate goal of Islam over and above everything else. For this purpose, he recruited only those he believed would help his mission, and was constrained to accept those who would not obstruct it. The unabashed nepotism of his APC government is what irked the people to think they had been duped. Notwithstanding, in a statement signed by Garba Shehu, SSA, to the President on the 13th of December 2022, titled, President Buhari to receive award on peace and security, Buhari told Secretary-General of the Abu Dhabi Forum, Sheikh Mahfoud bin Baya, and his deputy, Pastor Bob Roberts, who visited him in Washington, D.C., that he has done his best for Nigeria in his 7.5 years. The purpose of their visit was to invite the President to attend an award conferment on him in recognition of his achievements in promoting peace and security. President Buhari also seized the chance to note, strangely, the need to raise generations of youths devoid of religious extremism and bigotry, which is directly opposed to his lifelong pursuit. Bin Baya said the award is in line with the Foundation's work in fighting religious extremism and promoting peaceful coexistence and dialogue among all religions. The whole arrangement was to blur the line of reality in an effort at revisionism, as the Buhari administration is winding down. The evidences of reality are in southern Kaduna, Jos in Plateau, Benue, Taraba, Zamfara, Sokoto and Katsina states, if Borno state has become a cliché. Quote, Islam is not just a spiritual religion. Islam is a way of life. It is a heavenly system revealed to our world through the angel Gabriel, and the responsibility of Muslims is to destroy any other system in the world and replace it with the Islamic system. End quote. Maulana Abdul Allah Maududi. This is jihad. It is the mission of the general in politics, stealth jihad. Nigeria and stealth jihad. One of the objectives of establishing Islam in Africa Organization, IAO, at Abuja in 1989 was to ensure the appointment of only Muslims into strategic national and international posts of member states. By that time, it was far-fetched how the objective could be achieved in a multi-religious country like Nigeria until General Muhammadu Buhari returned to power as elected president. Since then, Nigeria has been under attack of a non-violent stealth jihad of Buhari government. The warfare, or stealth jihad, includes multi-layered constitutional subversion, the co-opting of strategic sectors with leadership, influence operations and information, or propaganda, and other means of insinuating Sharia into Western democracy from within. The strategic entities of interest are NNPC with subsidiaries in petroleum, gas and energy, CBN and Nigerian Security Printing and Minting Company, NSPMC, in finance, Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy, National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, in the now and future enterprises, and leadership recruitment system, etc. As NNPC was taken over, People's Gazette, an online investigative newspaper, dug into how Maman Dara, Buhari's octogenarian nephew, Yusuf Tunde Sabayu, Buhari's sister's grandson, and Awul Gombe, Ibrahim Babangida's son-in-law as Strategic Capital Investments Limited, bought Polaris Bank at a paltry 50 billion naira in October 2022 against reasoned opposition of National Assembly and other voices as part of a ferocious plot to elevate Aisha Ahmed, CBN Deputy Governor, as the next governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. The company was incorporated 6 months earlier, on April 28th, as a subsidiary of Ponglo Marape Limited, owned by Awal Abdullahi Gombe. The State Security Service, SSS, trumped up charges against Godwin Emefiele, the CBN governor for financing terrorism, was only a subplot to get rid of the cabal's obedient servant. Could SSS, an agency in the presidency, go after the CBN governor without the knowledge of the president? It is curious. It reports its activities to the Office of the National Security Advisor, who briefs the president daily. In September 2022, President Buhari appointed the First Lady elder brother, Ahmed Halailu, as the substantive managing director of NSPMC, following the resignation of Abbas Masanawa on May 16th on the recommendation of the CBN governor Godwin Emefiele, who serves as the NSPMC board chairman. This was found worrisome in some quarters, including Gravitas Group, an international advocacy organization for good governance, accountability, and transparency, that he would be superintending over the printing of all sensitive security materials. He was mandated later to redesign and print the highest denominations of Naira notes to be circulated in December. In a similar subterfuge, Sheikh Isa Pantami, an ICT academic and Islamic cleric, who is the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, and his protege, Kashifu Enuwa Abdullahi, DG of NITDA plot to convert NITDA, an IT development agency, to a regulatory agency through a repeal and reenactment bill 2021. If the bill is passed against the outrage and vehement worries of stakeholders and industry practitioners, it will make NITDA a super regulator of the information technology sector and digital economy of Nigeria. The intended act is to provide for the administration, implementation, and regulation of information technology systems and practices, as well as digital economy in Nigeria and related matters. At present, there are various acts setting up all the agencies under the ministry, which include Nigeria Communications Commission, NCC, National Information Technology Development Agency, NITDA, Galazi Backbone, National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, Nigeria Communications Satellite Limited, NIG Comsat, Nigerian Postal Service, NI Post, and the National Frequency Management Council, NFMC. Imagine bringing all of them under one all-knowing, all-powerful regulator. Note, Isa Pantami was the former DG of NITDA from 2016 until he was appointed later in a cabinet reshuffle as the First Minister of Communications and Digital Economy in 2019, after the renaming of the ministry to include Digital Economy. It was all part of the scheme of the stealth jihad to subvert Nigerian political economy from within. These strategic ministries, departments and agencies, MDAs, were called out at different times for clandestine recruitments. Just as we cannot say all Muslims hold a certain view based on the actions of extremists, it would be unwise to discount the malicious intentions of those that wish to subvert Nigerian democracy and rule of law. A Kanu Islamic preacher, Abdul Muttalib Muhammad Awal, addressing a congregation of Islamic preachers in Kanu, Northwest in January 2023, said the All Progressives Congress, APC, Muslim ticket was a call to jihad. The meeting that brought together about 75 Muslim groups, including the Kaduna State Izala and Jos Plateau State Izala, the Salafiyya, Qadiriya, Muslims in Daiwa, Women in Daiwa, Yoruba and Igbo Muslim groups and Kanu Imams group. He said, "The import of today's sitting is to let the clerics and indeed all Muslim leaders know that the Muslim ticket is not about mere promises of bringing dividends of democracy like road and infrastructure. This ticket is about the supremacy of Islam." Declared, furthermore, remember, that a Muslim is always better than an infidel. Another cleric, who is the leader of Izala in Kanu, Sheikh Abdallah Saleh Pakistan, disclosed that Tinubu had always promoted the enthronement of the Muslim ticket, while Kanu State Governor Umar Abdullahi Ganduje asserted that the Tinubu-Shetima ticket would be supported by all Muslims. The President Muhammadu Buhari's APC government is out to define Nigeria as an Islamic country.
If you are not persuaded or still in doubt, the former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, says it all in his Thanksgiving meeting with Muslim clerics in Kaduna after the 2023 elections. Speaking in Hausa language, he boasted that he has helped bring Islamic dominance to the state, which has now been replicated in Nigeria through the Muslim ticket of All Progressives Congress. He said during the electioneering campaigns, they deceived the Christians that Muslim ticket was not for religious dominance when, in reality, the tickets both nationally and at the state level were for Islamic dominance. He claimed that Kaduna Islamic dominance, having been successfully replicated in Nigeria, shall continue for the next 20 years unending in the state and nationally. He further boasted that the victory of Bola Tinubu as president had silenced the Christian Association of Nigeria. Thank you for listening to episode 9 of Show the House to the House. You can now listen to episode 10 on the same channel.